What if you have a working application that you have poured all your time and effort into? How do we integrate Stripe into our FastHTML application? Can we make a Stripe checkout in under 15 minutes? And what tool might be priceless when we are developing this integration? First thing to do is to head over to Stripe and set up everything there. That will later allow us to test our integration. At the Stripe site, do create an account, then switch it over to test mode. This way, we can check that everything is working as it should without worrying that we have actually bought anything. Then we define our test product. I have set up lifetime purchase to my SaaS to get the easiest flow running first. A Stripe checkout. After that, we define the price. And how about $3,000? Is it too much for the value that my SaaS is providing? Hell no, let's go. Finally, we need some API secrets from Stripe. We are running in test mode, so we get the Stripe API secret and a test webhook secret. In this test, I put them in a local .env file for now. Now, we have the Stripe setup we need, and we can start setting up our local development environment. If you are interested in turning your FastHTML applications into a SaaS business, do subscribe and tag along for that journey. Second step is setting up everything locally so that we can run the tests there. First, we create a virtual environment. In there, I'll start up with the Google-based login code that we developed in the last video. Then we install the Stripe CLI. And I do this to be able to reach the local server from Stripe or getting the webhook events from Stripe into our local setup. This is the Stripe documentation for this. And I'm doing the apt root install, but there are others documented here. First, I'm getting the public key for the package. Then I install that one into the package list, updating apt, and finally installing the Stripe package. Then we need to log in this Stripe CLI with my Stripe login. To see that everything is working, we can try to create a product directly from my terminal window. I'm using the command stripe products create. And when we get an answer that looks like this, we know that everything is working. We can also check for this product into the Stripe dashboard or the web page. It should now be listed there. And then it is time to install the Stripe SDK, the Python SDK. I put this in my requirements.txt file as Stripe bigger than 12.0.0. And finally, I run pip install.r requirements.txt command to get everything installed in this local environment. And with that, we are ready to start writing the actual code. In this step, I will just extend the code that I already have for a login SaaS from the last video. The existing code will just be extended with stuff that is needed for this Stripe integration. So when we come to the next step, let's hope that we are able to run a full checkout. In the code, first we need to import the Stripe SDK. Then we make a new branch of the home page. If you are logged in to this application, but you have not bought any lifetime purchase or even subscription or anything, then we will show a buy button to this user. And to start off, I will just make a buy a lifetime purchase button. And this button makes HX post to the root create checkout session. The code for create checkout session, in its turn, it calls the Stripe SDK with data about the purchase, currency, product data, price and quantity, payment mode and name of our application. It also wants some URLs for a success callback and another for a cancel. Finally, this code redirects the user over to the Stripe page where the actual purchase is made and handled. So, from the perspective of this application, Stripe payment processing happens in 2 steps. First, Stripe sends a series of webhook events back to us for us to update databases and states. This is handled by a post handler called root webhook. And first, that one awaits the body of the event. Then we use the Stripe SDK to verify that this post request actually comes from Stripe. And for that, we're using the Stripe webhook test key that we put into the .environment file. If it was a valid event, we look at the type of the event. And for a checkout, we only need to look at one event, and that is the checkout session completed event. So when I get this event, I just store a payment data struct with information about the payment into the database. Or in this local implementation, I'm just using a list of these data structs. And then this webhook answers back with HTTPS code 200 or OK. The second step that we will get from Stripe is after these events are sent. They call either a success or a cancel URL. Those URLs that we have given them. And this root success, it carries with it a checkout ID. We can read the corresponding payment data struct from our database or list and check that the status of this payment is actually paid. If it isn't, we need to give an error message. If it is paid, we set the user parameter LTP to true. And this is a variable of the user database, not the payment database. So there are 2 lists in this application. So we set the LTP to true just to indicate to the front end that we have actually a user that is a lifetime purchaser. And after that, we present a thank you page with some information. And on the bottom of that page, we present a link to the home page. And if we click on that one and go back to the home page, we should now enter the branch where we can see that we are a lifetime purchase owner. And there should be no more buy button visible. If the Stripe purchase is cancelled, we get the cancel information, and in this case we don't need to store anything. We just show some information here and provide a link back to the home page. And when clicked, we will see the home page just as we started off with. So Here we will still have the buy button available. There we have it. A buy button, a redirection to Stripe, some webhook for events, and success and cancel web pages. That's all we need for the integration, and we have now written all the code that we need. We are now ready to make a run. So let's now test everything together. First, we need a startup sequence for everything to run. We go to our code directory and activate the virtual environment. Then I duplicate my terminal windows, and in the second one I create this webhook proxy using the Stripe CLI with the command stripe listen -- forward to and my local URL. This one will allow Stripe webhook events to pass through back into my application. And in the first terminal, that's where I'm running my web server. So I will just start off the FastHTML server with the usual command python 3 main01.py. And here we have a web page as well. So we press buy. We are redirected into Stripe, and here we enter some Stripe data for this purchase. The card code 42, 42, 42, 42, 42, and so on. That one is used for always create a success of a buy, but it is a test code. So what is in the other fields of this buy box isn't really that interesting. But we need the 4242 code. And then we press A. And we get an error. Now, here I will spare you the 2 weeks of lead time it took me to find this out, but I will just give you the superpower tool to find and debug this kind of issues. I use curl to simulate a webhook, and I use the verbose mode of curl just to see everything that is happening. So if we look at what's happening here with curl in the last section, we can see that there is a redirect to the root login. There shouldn't be a reroute to login. Not for webhooks. This means that the login is interfering with the Stripe events, and the login skip list does not include the root webhook. So we just fix that and restart everything again. So in this second try, we restart the main, we do a login, we press buy and are redirected to Stripe. We enter more or less the same Stripe data, remember 42, and then we press buy. And now we are redirected to the success web page. And when we also press the home button, we are greeted with the home page showing that we have a lifetime owner. Thank you. So now we have completed a purchase or checkout with Stripe. Did we make it on time? Yay! And do remember, when debugging this type of post requests, like the webhook events, use curl with verbose. Now, this was a basic Stripe example, doing just a checkout. What could we do more with this kind of Stripe integration? Well, from a SaaS perspective, there are two SaaS functions that we might consider. First, a refund processing. Should we make it possible for users to get a refund? Secondly, of course, we also want to be able to make monthly subscriptions, so handling subscriptions would be fun. Now, both of these will extend some more code with some more buttons and some more webhook processing and handling. So it will be extensions, but not really that much from the already working function. Another thing with this example code is that it's using multi-pages. It jumps between pages all the time. What about using HTMX to actually integrate everything into the same card of the home page? Wouldn't that look neat? And that's something I might look into quite soon. And then there are some things to consider when we take this from a test environment up to a production level application. For the first, we will need to move the application to an actual URL server. And for the second, we need to switch our Stripe dashboard or our Stripe account from test mode to actual production mode. Then we also need to define new products that are actually live. The same goes that we need new webhook secret key. We can't use the test one that we have used so far. Now, in the dashboard of Stripe, we also need to define which events do we want sent to us. When we're running test, we will get all events associated with this workflow. But when we're running in production, we won't get anything if we haven't enabled them. So we actually have to go through, and for all the purchase flows that we set up, we need to define what events do I want. And then, because we have new URLs of this production ready SaaS, we need new webhooks for the success and cancel UIs. And we can also consider that we will not need to use the Stripe CLI webhook proxy. That's just for testing. But all these things, that could be left for later, because we made it now. In the next video of this series, I'll start creating some SaaS applications using all that we have done so far in all prior videos about FastHTML. So subscribe and tag along for that journey. Now, if you missed some of my older videos on some parts of this SaaS code, you can check out the playlist that was shown right now that covers everything we need to know to make a SaaS with FastHTML. And now, will I actually be happier when money will start pouring in? Or will I just freak out by the fact that maybe my price is a bit higher than the value that my SaaS is actually providing? I guess that's a story for another day. At least, I got this checkout working in time. Thanks for checking this out, and we'll see you in the next one.